It's a great intro to entrepreneurship. Once you've done it, you know you can do it. It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Like placements across the world, not just in India or not just in IIMs, is a pressure cooker.
Yeah. All right. What's up, Pratham? How was your day today?
It's been busy.
Busy?
Yeah.
What's been keeping you busy?
So, obviously it's the placement season at Masters Union. And I think we're on the last leg now. And, obviously trying to break some records. So, it's been busy.
Of course. I mean, so placement seasons, like, butterflies in the stomachs of the students, they're going for interviews, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, having done it onthat's this is your now second round.
Round.
Do you think you've optimized somewhere compared to the first cohort? Do you think there's things you did with these students this time that's helped them better?
Lots of things. I mean, I think we can have a full podcast just on that. And probably we will do that. But I think more or less what I would say is that, we have matured a lot as an organization in the last 1 year. And the placements department specifically, right? Because what happened after first year's placement results were out was that we got like a barrage of, demand
of course,
coming in from the industry.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that, the processes that we follow are done in such a way that companies don't feel ignored. And students also feel that, they got enough opportunities and, the entire process was done efficiently. Because, what happens in IIMs, etc., is that all the placements happen on 1 day or 2 days.
Yeah.
Right. And we have sort of decided not to follow that process because that's very stress inducing.
Right.
So we sort of space our placements out over 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so just making sure that works out, that's something that we have learned a lot about.
Right. I mean, there's these famous stories about the day 0, day 1, day 2 companies. And just to kind of have a match in just within 3 days is really stressful or really hard for a student. The fact that you're giving them that much time just to kind of not just, find an interview, but also see, okay, what are my core values and what matches with what company or what sector or what firm I want to go into.
Correct. No, I mean, it's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Like placements across the world, not just in India or not just in IIMs, is a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
So we are trying our best to make sure that it's not a pressure cooker. Right. And the best way to do that is to space it out.
It's a saucepan, a wide pan.
It's a wider pan.
A wider saucepan.
It's a dosa wala pan.
Dosa wala pan.
Correct.
That's interesting. We can probably use more food related or food cooking utensils related analogies in this.
That's what we are going for today.
I'll put it in. But just as a disclaimer, I mean, what I'd initially thought about what this podcast would be was, for anyone who's watching this to get to know about Masters Union in, the totality of it from the perspective of an applicant. So, right now we've spoken about the output. I would want to take you, let's say, both towards the end of a sentence and at the beginning of it.
Okay.
So right now we're starting in the middle.
Okay.
So we've recently just completed term 2, we're in term 3.
Correct.
The creator challenge is on and about.
Correct.
So just a small intro about maybe what that's about and what students are doing, and let's discuss maybe some interesting things that we see.
Yeah, so I think one of the ways that people learn is by doing, right? And as an education institution, what we should ensure is that whatever students are learning in class, they're actually getting to apply it. And they get to apply it that evening or that week versus wait like 2 years and they go into the industry and then get to apply it.
Yeah.
So when you apply something that you've learned very quickly, then you actually assimilate it, then it actually stays with you forever, right? And so, term 2 is a lot about marketing, right? Term 3 is also a lot about marketing, about go-to-market strategies, about sales, about, how to sort of brand yourself, all of those things, right? And so we thought the best way to learn these things and to really internalize these things is to actually become a creator yourself. So what we have done is that in term 3, all students, or between term 2 and term 3, all students actually become creators on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. And, that's a great way to take all your learnings from your branding class, from your marketing class, and actually sort of build your own brand, right? And that helps in a few ways. First is it puts you out there. You get comfortable with camera, you get comfortable with speaking. But more importantly, when you're sitting for placements, you have a great story to tell.
Of course.
Right? So if you've been running a podcast on, let's say, product management, people will reach out to you for a product management job.
I mean, just story in its there. I mean, I would want to talk about the recent Moonshots podcast
yeah,
that
of
we
course.
had.
Yeah.
Right? That's testament to the power of podcasts and reaching out and putting yourself out there.
That gave me goosebumps. So
Right.
for the viewers, the story
Yeah.
goes like this, right? So one of our students, he really wanted a job at Google X.
Yeah.
Right? And it's hard to get a job at
It's
Google X.
ridiculously hard.
And especially from India.
Yeah.
And not having an American,
Yeah.
citizenship or visa or whatever. But he was determined, man. Like, I mean, how do I even,
Full 9 yards.
Yeah. By the way, I just gifted him my old Google Glass yesterday just for what he had done.
Amazing.
And this is what he had done. So to sort of build his case for Google X, he actually created his own podcast called the Moonshot Podcast, where he and a bunch of his friends would discuss moonshot ideas. Like, how can we solve waste management through AI? Or how can we, solve food scarcity through, mining food on some asteroid. I don't know, some crazy ideas like that. And he would just sort of discuss it in a freewheeling conversation. And someone at Google X actually saw that and reached out to him and offered whether he would want someone from Google X to come in and be on his podcast, right? And sure, he hasn't gotten the job yet, but that's like 5 steps closer.
Yeah, 100%. And to an entity which is usually, no one can really reach them. They're usually looking at your PhD engineering and like then really that's
and they're a closed box.
Yeah.
Like nobody even knows like what's happening inside. But here it's Google X themselves, the folks there reaching out to our student just because he runs a podcast.
I mean, another thing just to unpack, you mentioned you learn about marketing in term 2 and term 3, a lot about GTM, a lot about, media strategy, for example.
Correct.
Recently, our students also just won a competition at ISB where they had these same topics. So it's like another form of, let's say, learn and then apply by doing, but in a competition kind of scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, that was quite good, right?
Yeah.
So I think ISB hosts this case competition where I think they have 7 or 8 case competitions. I think our students won 2 out of those 7 or 8 competitions, which was quite cool.
Yeah.
And we also came 3rd in a bunch of others. It was quite interesting. I mean, students, we were visiting an external competition for the first time.
Yeah.
And, they were up against all IIMs, ISP, etc. So for us to do well was a great testament to the way we teach. And a lot of students came back and, spoke to the faculty, spoke to me, and they said the reason we were able to do so well was because, the curriculum that we have been exposed to in Masters Union is very different from, I wouldn't say better or worse, right? Like it's very different from the curriculum they teach at IIMs. And because of that, the way they approached those cases, those problem statements was just very unique, right? So when you have 10 teams and 9 approaching the problem in one way and 1 approaching the problem in a very different way, that unique different way will always win.
That's true, but like it's just testament to the non-traditional nature of the curriculum that's at Masters Union. Because usually it's like again I take the example of sports leagues when I have to explain Masters Union to people. It's like everyone plays in this traditional way. We play in this non-traditional way, but the goal is still to win the league, right? At the end of the day.
Correct.
So
we're still in the same league.
We're still in the same league. We're still competing in the same space. It's just our tactics, our formation, are this.
Your playbook is
different.
Yeah.
And like it's testament that they are getting that output now, like with the first place awards that they won.
I mean, so just 2 weeks ago we did our placements for Cohort 3. We sort of started that, right? And we had Bain and BCG come.
Yeah.
They came on the same day, all of that, right? And so we are playing the same game that IIMs play. However, the way we sort of trained our students, I think, was very different. The way we did our case prep. All of that was very, very different. But yet we got the same prize at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane that BCG, Bain, McKinsey, like they've started coming from the first year and they've continued to come second year.
They've come back. Yeah.
They come back. Right?
I was very scared for that, to be honest. I was like, only when they come back. So bringing them for the first time is hard, but still easy. But making sure they come for a second time.
It's the repeat business.
That's when you know that your product is actually done well.
Yeah.
So for them, both of them to come back second year, third year, I think that basically gives me a lot of confidence in what we are doing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's across the line, right? It's testament to how the students are at the end of the program, how transformed they become.
Absolutely.
That's something that I'm curious to ask you about now, transformation, which is, for me, I mean, I've been here for a while in this ecosystem and I've seen fantastic stories of people like Raghu, for example, right? Someone who I saw might not have been so comfortable with communication or public speaking, transform into someone who's hosting a podcast and then get someone from Google X is invited on there. Like that radical change is any stories like that?
I mean, Raghu's a great story.
Yeah.
I think he was one of the most quiet people in the batch.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think like in my team as well. I mean, I think
quite reserved, I would say.
Very reserved. But he was very confident about his skill. He knew what he was doing, right? but his expression perhaps wasn't as open or as extroverted. But he was able to cultivate that. First is you have to understand what your weaknesses are, right? So first you have to be self-aware. And I think a lot of the classes here sort of make you self-aware. You do the reflected best self exercise, you do the MBTI, you do all of these other exercises that give you a reflection of actually who you are and what you lack. And once you understand that and accept that, then you have to work on those things. And Raghu is a great example of how he first figured out his sort of shortcoming and then has been working relentlessly to band-aid that, right? And he's done, I think, marvelously well. And today, if you meet him, his sense of expression, his sort of presence on YouTube is perhaps top 5%.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, again, crazy transformation to see from where he was and where he came.
It's also about, your peers, right? Like his friend group or his peer group was something that sort of, I think, also impacted him a lot in coming out of the shell that he was in.
Makes sense. The peer learning is something that definitely I'd want to dive a bit into, but I'm still now making my way back from the sentence.
Yeah.
My favorite part of, let's say, between first and second term was two things. There was obviously the presence of someone from NASA that landed up here to teach our students, and I remember I was walking through office once and people were doing a presentation on businesses on the moon that they'd had to set up.
Right.
So there's I want to unpack that first. And the second is obviously the dropshipping, the challenge that students did, trying to understand, what's the psyche behind that, and what was your experience with that? Because I believe you also went to the Mela that day that they had hosted. I did. So let's start with Dr. Ed Rogers.
Let's start.
Yeah.
So Dr. Edward Rogers was the chief learning officer at NASA, and NASA does a lot of learning. Right? And when we wanted to bring in someone to teach complex, organizational problems and teach how to solve those complex organizational problems, we couldn't think of anyone better than Professor Rogers, right? And so we reached out to him and we said, "Hey, would you like to come to India and teach this course?" And he's like, "Wait, why?" But then we sort of unpacked that with him and said, "Hey, listen, this is something that's going to be very interesting. The students are super excited." And he said, "Okay, I will teach, but we have to have a few things. First is, there's going to be this competition where students have to build a business on Mars, right? And that's going to be the final project that students do, and that's how they're going to be graded." He's like, "Are you cool with that?" Right? We said,
"Wow.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you say. I mean, you know how people learn.
Yeah.
So I think that was great. So he spoke a lot about mind maps. He spoke a lot about how to think in a structured way. I think his class was perhaps one of the more, it was one of the reasons that students did so well in these case competitions and, case prep and the interviews at Bain BCG was because of this class, like the structured thinking, the structured process with which you should look at a problem. But at the end of the day, the assignment, the final project was to build a business on Mars. And that really sort of makes students think, that makes students sort of push themselves and work in a way that has no boundaries, essentially, right? And so his point was just to get students out of their shell, stop thinking from a very narrow viewpoint, stop thinking of all the small issues that people would face when they're building a business, and just build it on Mars. So very cool idea. But dropshipping is, I think, super interesting. We've been doing dropshipping for now a couple of years. And we know that this works. Because dropshipping is one kind of business. By the way, what this is first. So in term one, students come in and they have to take these 5-6 core courses. But they also have to build a business, a dropshipping business. And for those who don't know what dropshipping is essentially running your own e-commerce store without keeping any inventory, right? So you're able to sell, let's say, this mug or these mics or these shirts. But you just have to market it on your website, and then the vendor or somebody else is sort of delivering that stuff for you, right? And so there is no investment required to start this business. So we wanted students to learn the entire 360 of how a business functions, right? And dropshipping is a great way to do marketing, great way to learn about tech, great way to learn about supply chain, great way to learn about sales, great way to learn about accounting, right? And so the accounting that they're learning in the classroom, they're actually able to apply it when they're writing their books and their, profit and loss statements in the evening. But what we did this time that was slightly different was that we actually got students to not only do the online retailing, but also do offline retailing. So where we got this space at the, what was the mall called?
Worldmark.
Worldmark Mall, yeah. So at the Worldmark Mall, all of our students put up their stalls and they sold stuff to people in flesh and blood in real time. I think that was a great experience for students.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I saw even in a day a transformation. I kid you not. I went and spoke to students at the start of the fair, and they were speaking in a certain way. But then going at the end of the day, having spoken to say 300 people and having gotten that experience of how to do sales, the pitch had changed. The tone of their voice had changed. What they were talking about first changed. Depending on, say, if it was a family or if it was individual people, they were talking about completely different things. So just to be out there in the sun, like, speaking to people and, kind of driving that, it was very apparent to me.
It's a great intro to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right? Once you've done it, you can do it. A lot of the times people just feel that, hey, listen, I can't start a company or I can't do this job. But once we actually make them do this, right, and they do it, they actually surpass their own expectations. We actually do this where we ask them before they start the program, the dropshipping program, how much do you think you'll make in revenue? And usually they say 1, 2, 3 lakhs, whatever, some number like that. But many of them actually end up surpassing that number by a huge margin. To the extent, I think someone did almost 15, 20 lakhs this year, right, in revenue.
Potentially.
I mean, I think mostly got their entire fees out of it. But I think in total, the total revenue from all the products sold combined is like some 2-3 crores.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
not
ridiculous.
insignificant.
Oh, no, for a student challenge or student project to happen within a time span of almost 45 days to 60 days. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, moving one step back now. Now we come to, let's say, pre-term and orientation. And I'm curious to know, because this time Discord was pretty active. We had a good community going of students who were joining us. They were sharing interesting things about us. And I remember asking them about spicy food.
Yeah.
And I have this list of 80 spicy things to eat in my life. So I use them to kind of, filter out lists for me that I wouldn't want to do.
I remember when you did that.
Yeah. So, students coming in at that point in time, I just feel that before joining a college is when you need to be really engaged with it to understand the culture, to understand each other.
Yeah.
And even the students, I think that they know each other really well. And coming to college with that experience, it's like you're already bonded before the pressure drops.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to find your way during that. So I think that's something that I really feel that the batch is really well connected even before they came.
So I think when you're choosing which business school to go to, I think one thing you look at is ranking.
Yeah.
And one thing you look at is placements.
Yeah.
But let's say those two are the same across board. Then you have to look at the culture.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one thing that we've done a very good job of, and I would give your team a lot of credit for this, is that Discord community that we built before students had to accept the offer.
Yeah.
That was 1 or 2 months almost of insight into what Masters Union is going to be all about, who my peers are. I think a lot of the kids joined because they knew who else was joining. Right. And that insight is incredibly useful. That's number one. And number two, also, I think that gives insight into how the learning would be at Masters Union, right? Incredibly fun, incredibly sort of community oriented, all of that. So I think the Discord server was a great idea, and I think I'm looking forward to what happens this year. I think you have some grander plans.
Incoming for anyone who's thinking about applying. Then surprises await you is all I can say. But yeah, orientation as well. I mean, we did some really serious things and some really silly things.
Yeah.
So I remember if you want to check it out, you can go to our YouTube, and we have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, a full catalog of what you can expect. But
so we've already sort of broken the suspense, I guess.
No.
I guess we're going to do something different for next year.
Yeah. No, we have the suspense elements in there, but we'll be planning something that is going to be facing Cohort 4 again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of focus on something that you said, which was peer learning or getting into Masters Union because who else is going there, and let's talk about who's actually here, right? Our cohort, the third cohort that's here. That's almost 180 strong.
Yeah.
It's very interesting people, don't you think?
So I think the adjective, if I had to use one, would be diverse. Right. I think one of the things that we've always worked upon is diversity to make sure that there's enough all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So we have kids not only who are engineers but business people, but also CAs. But interestingly, we also have people who've studied hotel management.
Yeah.
We have people who come from sort of a more medicine-ish background. We have people who, I think we had someone who applied who was a vet,
Yeah.
right? I don't think he got in, maybe, or she got in. But,
I
but
remember
would have
that.
loved to.
Yeah.
I think the essays probably failed her a little bit. But would have been great to have her.
Yeah.
So very diverse. We have people who were in Saregama. We have people who've acted on Netflix shows. We have people who've worked in hardcore old kind of like automotive industries. But we also have people who worked in like Zomato kind of companies. So I think also when I talk to students, one of the things I keep finding is like they always say, hey, listen, like my roommate is like so different from me, right? And that to me is like the best kind of learning, because if you're surrounded by people who are just like you, it's going to be an echo chamber. But when you have people around you who are so different, they'll keep challenging you, they'll keep poking you, they'll keep asking you questions that make you uncomfortable, right? I think that's where learning starts.
But that peer learning element is something that I'd want everyone to understand, because say something that's a huge question we get thrown at us is that because it's a technology and business management course, a lot of people coming in from non-tech backgrounds, they keep asking about that tech element of it. So, I mean, obviously the peer learning is a way to address it, but what would you say to people like that?
Yeah, so it's a tech and B school, right? And so a lot of our courses are going to be tech and a lot of our courses are going to be business, right? But what that also means is that a lot of our students are going to be from tech background and a lot of our students are going to be from business background. So if I have a business I want to build, or if I have a job I want to target, let's say I want to target a job at Google and I come from a BCom background. I'm a CA and I want to become a growth strategist at Google, right? So when I'm surrounded by people who previously worked at Google or who understand Google's technology or who just know tech in general, there'll be so much cross-pollination, there'll be so much osmosis that would happen that if I spend 1 year with someone who was a technologist for the last 5 years, I'll become at least half a technologist, right? So this osmosis is very real. When you spend enough time with somebody, you learn their learnings. It just happens. You learn how, you understand how they think. You start thinking like them. So the tech and business aspect is also what defines the community. The community is also interested in tech and business. So a lot of our students want to go into tech, want to go into product management, want to go into digital marketing rather than traditional marketing, want to get into tech sales rather than sales, want to get into analytics and consulting.
Fintech
instead of finance, right? So I think that's the tech and business of it. And I think because the peer community is like that, is as diverse, so I think that just adds to it.
Yeah, I mean, people are from a political science background.
Oh yeah, I forget about that.
Who are coping here with
a political consultant.
Yeah, a political consultant is here. So we're looking at people kind of from all lenses of life and utilizing the tools.
I think we're missing out on some interesting stories here.
No, I have something interesting planned for you at the end, which hopefully we will get to.
I think our diversity is I think even more diverse than how we have made it out in this podcast. I think it's a lot more. It's not captured yet.
It's difficult to talk about it. It's like
you have to feel it.
There's always another layer that you can peel off this onion.
I mean, let's look at the age group, right?
Yeah.
We have freshers and we have people with 10 years of experience.
It's from 21 to 33.
We have people who have kids.
Yeah. Right? Recently, people have.
Someone just had it. We have ISRO scientists.
Yeah.
We have little rocket scientists.
Yeah.
Right. And we have BCom freshers.
Right. And just think about it. An ISRO scientist now going to a content creator challenge and trying to make a YouTube video.
And he's done a good job.
He's done a good
job. Yeah. And I mean, talking about content creator, there's this student who, I think Anurag, right?
Anurag the business with
Bansal, right? Okay. So Bansals are a community that are sort of known to be businessmen, they're banyas, like me. So he sort of called his channel Business with Bansal, and he creates these videos on how Zomato has done something very different in their business model, or how Domino's has done something very different in their business model. And I think he's like his YouTube pages or whatever, his Instagram is growing like anything.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Reels are doing pretty well.
And he comes from a product management background, and he's become a content creator.
Wow.
I don't know where he'll go after this.
That's interesting.
I want him to just I told him the other day that just if this is working out so well for you, make this your career. Why can't you become a content creator? I mean, why not?
Yeah, it pays really well.
It pays really well.
It pays really, really well.
And I mean, then you don't need to look for a job.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of invent your own job.
You invent your own
job. That's what you can.
Or I mean, even if you tomorrow wanted to do a job, all you have to do is you post on your own Instagram, hey, I'm looking for a job. Yeah. And you'll have 20 offers within the next 5 minutes. So,
That's the
so I think
power
he's
of-
convinced. I think he's convinced.
Amazing.
Yeah, he'll be our first content creator graduate, and I can't wait to write that on the placement report.
Another non-traditional element that's been added. But yeah, I mean, so given let's again hunker down on the diversity aspect of it. Given that students are coming from an engineering background and coming from a say political science background or a liberal arts or a business background, the pure learning is something that I think adds or fills in all the gaps that at least that I've observed over here. Because looking at how classes are constructed, plus whatever in-class and out-class components that are there, you see students from like 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night on campus, just running left and right. It's actually chaotic because they've started taking all my space. So I can't sit anywhere because they're like, no, we're working. So it's really interesting to see that energy. I think that's something that I feel is lost where there's too much competition, where there's not too much unhealthy competition. I just feel that the spirit over here is in the right way as well.
See, I think one thing that students understand is that they're not competing with each other.
Yeah.
I think what other education systems across the world do is that they put students against each other, right? It's a zero-sum game for whatever reason. When in reality, it's not. You know how many companies there are in the world? Like how many companies there are in the world where our students could get employment? I mean, let's like narrow it down. Let's not call like a pan wala maybe but the companies where our students can get probably like 100,000.
Yeah.
Like there are probably 1 lakh companies where our students could get employment. You know how many come to like a campus, like a business school campus?
How many?
50, right? And when you've made the entire universe of companies just 50, then obviously students will feel that they're competing with each other. But the universe is actually much larger, right? So we tell students that, hey, listen, let's target those 1 lakh companies. Let's not just be focused on those 50 companies only and compete with each other. Why don't you, like just go beyond those 50, break those barriers and try to find, and by the way, we've been very successful at that. This year we have 2 or 3 students go to companies at very, very high packages. I bet you the name of the names of those companies you would never have heard of. Those are large companies, right? But it's just that they don't come to a regular B school.
Got it. Okay, so outcomes for me and how I can understand it at Masters Union, I dissect it for myself to the 3 Ps. That's what I put it as. Which is either you pivot, like I'm working in as you said, a digital marketing firm, want to be a manager of growth somewhere, so in a tech space.
So you want to pivot your career.
Either you push, so you want to stay in the same industry and you're saying at a junior level of hierarchy and you want to exit, post your MBA as in a senior level of hierarchy, or you want to pilot, that you want to start up, or you want to find a co-founder, or you're coming from a founding team and want to add more experience to that. So I just, it was very cool for me to see people come for the right intentions to the college. Because I don't remember in our applications, there was this 40-year-old man that we'd had apply to us who was a very, very senior person at JP Morgan.
Yeah.
And they were earning like a ridiculous amount of money. And for their, when I spoke to them, for their intention to, just say that I'm coming here because, I did my MBA 20 years ago. I need to update myself with, metaverse, Web3, whatever's happening. What's contemporary? I need to keep up with
that. Was so beautiful.
That was so beautiful, right? That they're coming at it with the most purest of intentions.
Correct.
But just to see those kind of people apply in the first place was magnificent.
So I think that's also, that also sort of sets Masters Union apart, because the students that are coming to Masters Union are students who are coming for the love of learning. Especially the students who came in the first 2 cohorts, because there was no placement report at that time, right? So they could not have come for placements only, right? They came for the entire experience. And I think that has sort of continued, where I think a few, or maybe about 50% of our students come with the intention of getting placed. But there is this large group that comes for the fun of learning, right? And we ask this question in our applications: why do you want to join Masters Union? I don't know if you have this year, but last year we had it, and I think everyone spoke about just 2 things. One is masters, being from the industry, and second is like how fun the curriculum is. Is that, do you think it will continue this year?
No, for sure. I think I think these are the, let's say, core elements of what it makes this experience attractive. Like, when Ed Rogers was inside, I was jealous that I was not a student, and I was not inside, because I was seeing these guys learn complexity by running around in circles, and I was like, what's going on? I need to be there. But I mean, we've spoken about the union aspect with the diversity and the student life, let's say. Let's come to the masters.
Yeah.
So, obviously the main appeal of the program is that you're learning directly from people who've run major businesses, Fortune 500 companies, have led major startups, and are in TV shows as well. Just a plug for Ashneer, who came recently to our team. Ashneer Grover from Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And
then Rajan came.
And then Rajan Anandan from Sequoia. So even having content creators, as you said, we hosted Raj Shamani, we hosted Manish as well. So people who are influential in this space as well, which are non-traditional spaces, which I don't think they're probably heading to any other business school and giving conversations about how that's run. So just according to you, having set up this ecosystem, like that interface between student and master, or breaking down that barrier, how important was that, and what does that solve?
Incredibly important, right? It starts with the location.
Yeah.
Where are we right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Upstairs is EY's India headquarters.
Yeah.
Above that is BCG's India headquarters. Above that is Bank of America's India headquarters, right? And we are literally in the same building. So when our students are coming up the elevators, they are sort of shoulder to shoulder with their recruiters, So they're studying along with their recruiters. That's number one. Number two, it becomes incredibly easy for all these people from upstairs to just come down and teach. It's just so easy. They don't have to commute. There is no paperwork. There is no approval.
Yeah.
They can just come down and just hang out. Even more importantly, students can just go across from here. There is the large food court, right? And you can just sit in the food court and rub shoulders with everyone from the industry, right? So our location is very strategic. That's number one. Number two, the kind of masters that come in are people who are volunteering their time, right? So they must be so passionate to teach, right? So we have the MDs, CEOs, all of the partners at consulting firms, and we just make it very easy for them to come and teach. Students talk to them, and the way they teach is also very interesting, right? They hardly ever prescribe books. They hardly ever bring slides. They just do a lot of storytelling. They just do a lot of case analysis. Harvard has the case study method.
Yeah.
But here, the case protagonist is himself or herself teaching the course.
Yeah.
Changes everything for the student.
Harry Potter telling you his story by themselves, rather than you reading it through a third person.
So literally, I think this is the wall. The company behind this wall is Aviva, which is one of the largest life insurance companies. Right? How easy would it be for our students to learn life insurance? The CEO is right there.
Right.
So I think that, and the way they teach, as I said, is super interesting, super fun, very storytelling oriented. But also more importantly, they essentially teach what they teach to their new recruits.
Got it.
Right? When Aviva takes in 100 MBA students, they have to train them in something, right? Yeah. But when the CEO comes and teaches, he teaches that same thing. So you learn from the industry exactly what is expected from you when you join.
Preponing that training thing. And,
exactly.
And you're learning that. You're learning stuff about the job in college from people who will recruit you in the future. And
the other thing is that the diversity, we spoke about the diversity of peers. Let's talk about the diversity of masters.
Yeah.
Right. So of course we have CEOs and MDs, but as you mentioned, we also have Manish Pandey, who is, I don't know, for those of you who don't know, he's one of the largest content gurus out there.
Content gurus, let's say that. Yeah.
I mean, all the major content creators today sort of, I think, consider him to be their god, or their teacher.
Yeah.
So he comes and spends some time with the students. We have, of course, Raj Shamani, who came and did the kickoff for the Creator Challenge.
Yeah.
We have fund managers who come and sort of work with the students who are running the Masters Union Investment Fund, which is a student-run investment fund. So I think the diversity of the masters in itself, we had Rajan, who runs Sequoia, talking about the venture capital side of things. But the day before that, we had Ashneer, who spoke about his experience fundraising and running Bharat Pay. And then, all the stuff that happened after. But, that perspective, a teacher cannot give you. Like a teacher who has been an academic his or her entire life will not be able to give you. I'm not saying that they don't have strengths. We also have full-time academic teachers now who are amazing as well. But I think just being here and having this diversity of masters is beautiful for the students.
If you were a student, which is one master that you would want to sit in a course or a class for?
So I think my finance is very weak.
Okay.
Right. So I'd love to sit in a class which is taught by someone who has been like a fund manager maybe, or
what about a Satish Krishnan?
Yeah, Satish Krishnan. Which company does he work?
I think it's in Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan, one of the two. So I think he manages one of the funds there, and he teaches. So actually one would love to sit in his class. We have Rajat Mathur, who teaches human resource management, essentially how to build teams. And he's the MD of Morgan Stanley in India, actually. And he also sort of is the CHRO or the head of human resources there.
Got it.
So it also helps us with, recruitment side of things. That's another thing, when you have people who are going to recruit you come and teach, when the recruitment time comes, they sort of throw in their hat first, in terms of selecting the students that they want.
I'm saying these are my thoughts here. I'm trying to be more explicit about it, but it's a very intelligent and a very disruptive way to kind of shake up the system. Because if I look at if I'm a MBA graduate or a potential MBA candidate, I want to do an MBA. How I would evaluate a college is looking at their alumni. Let's say how many alumni have gone to do what, and what level they're in. Just by a function of time, you'll see, say, colleges that have been around for 50, 60 years have older people who are in more senior positions that would be in this space. So, but at Masters Union, what I see is that kind of rarefied strata is just, they are your professors here.
Yeah, they're the masters.
So, and even more than that, they become friends.
Absolutely.
So, like, it's just kind of breaking that cycle of, this...
True.
Of time.
They're not alumni, but they are stakeholders.
Yeah.
Right. So they are as willing to help current students as alumni would be.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, I feel like they feel more of an ownership of Masters Union. So we have a master who's from Razorpay. So he runs sales at Razorpay, and he teaches fintech and fintech sales, all of that, and he's from IIM Ahmedabad.
Okay.
Right. And his class is currently going on because I just met him in the morning.
Achha.
And I kid you not, I think he feels more for Masters Union than he does for IIM Ahmedabad. Right? Because he teaches here. He has more at stake here now. And so I think I would say that for a lot of our masters, right? And all of our masters are illustrious in their own way. And they feel a deep attachment to Masters Union. And that's why they spend so much time here. That's why they, come teach. That's why they spend so much time first even creating their lesson plans, right? That's also not easy. They're not traditional teachers. They don't have it ready.
Yeah, 100%.
So all of that gives me a lot of confidence in placements, in the way we are training them, because we are training them for the industry, and the industry is coming and teaching.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned there, I'd like to head back to that, which is MUIF, MUIL. There's certain, let's say, clubs and committees that we have that's present on campus for students to express themselves, and obviously those are malleable. You can make new things that you'd want, like the golf thing that might be coming up. You're excited with that. I don't know any other college in India that's taking its kids to a CXO session through a golf in a golf range, right? Playing golf with CXOs there. So
that's amazing. I'm really looking forward to that. Has it already happened? I think
it's I'm not sure, or it's probably kickstarting.
It's kickstarting.
Either one of the two. But
we should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it was, I forget the student's name, but
I think it's Sahil.
Sahil. So he wanted to. He's passionate about golf.
Yeah.
Right. So he said, I want to create a golf club.
Yeah.
Right. And then he sort of thought, why not extend it further and actually make it a golf with CXOs club. Right. So I think they go every weekend.
Yeah.
I think they go every weekend. They've already started that.
Yeah.
And the CXO part, I think, is starting soon. Where so cool, right?
That's amazing. Yeah, like you take your passion and integrate it with whatever is
you want to learn,
whatever you want to learn, and like just having those. I mean, just people are, even though CXOs, they'll be very different, or what they say it'll be very different compared to them versus like 60 people in the classroom versus
in a golf range,
walking along with them, like holding their caddy, and that's something that I think is really, really cool. And just having that experience of making a new club or getting involved in something like a Masters Union investment fund, which is, as you said, it's a 5 crore or multiple crore fund that the students themselves manage. And it was, I didn't know that they had invested in blue cabs.
Blue Smart,
yeah. So like, the cabs that are running around everywhere, that like, I don't know, MUIF is an investor in
that. And like 7 other companies, by the way. So earlier, when we had just started, students were fully focused on investing in public equities like Reliance, Hero MotoCorp, etc. And we were discussing and we said, guys, sure, this is good learning, but how about we take that 5 crore fund, divide it up, and keep 2 crores only for startup investments, right? And imagine the Blue Smart founders pitching to our students, right? And that exposure that students are getting is I mean, you have to be a VC to do that.
Yeah,
right?
That's essentially VC's role that they're doing as MBA students.
And that's less learning, more exposure. Right? They know how the Blue Smart founders are pitching. And when they tomorrow go pitch, they would have that yardstick, that benchmark in their minds. But I think the MUIF has been super successful. Financially, not as much because I think the market is in a downturn right now. So our returns are low, but I think the learning is high.
No, I guess, the fact that you're invested into the learning, then the returns clearly shows me.
And by the way, it's one of the most popular clubs. So I think we did the interviews last week for the club. And a lot of kids who did not get in, I got like messages from like them saying that, this is why we came to Masters Union.
We want to be
part of this.
MUIF part 2.
I'm kidding. I was like, you guys can go fundraise. Yeah. Let's go fundraise and create another fund.
Create another MUIF. That'd be amazing. Then there's the counterpart, which is MUIL, the Innovation Lab.
Or the VIP program, the Venture Initiation program. Yeah. I think that's super cool. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Go for it.
And I think that's really the essence of Masters Union. Everything that we spoke about comes down to VIP. VIP is essentially a program where in a structured way, you are required to build a company, right? And dropshipping is just sort of your intro to entrepreneurship. This is sort of your advanced level, right? Here, you in teams of 4, 5, 6 students, you have to build a company, right? We give you seed funding. We get you seed funding from others. We have people who are building a Pani Puri chain. We have people who are building space debris cleaning startup. We have students, the ISRO guys, of course.
Yeah, right? There's a chicken chips. I don't know.
Chicken chips,
that's also coming.
That's so cool. Yeah, that is so cool. We also have lots of SaaS companies. We have, Zomato.
Web3 companies.
Web3 companies. Yeah, we have a blockchain layer 2 protocol coming up. So students have to build these companies, right, in a structured way. In term 3, they all have to do the business planning and the initial sort of things. Term 4, they have to do the MVP. Term 5, they have to do the GTM. Term 6, they have to do that. By term 7, they're ready to pitch to investors, right? I think term 6 is also when they have to get their first customer. By the end of term 7, they also have to get the first revenue in, right? And so by term 8, which is when Masters Union finishes, you can pitch to investors, right? In the very first year, we had almost 3 companies get formed. So lots of them got formed, but some of the students got good placements. So they left it in the middle, which is fine. But a lot of them actually continued building this company. And 3 of them are still running. So first was Mohit's company. There are 2 Mohits, both from IIT Kharagpur, I think. So they started a company called 8, which is sort of a modern radio for the next generation. I think they raised like 300-400K while they were in Masters Union.
Wow.
And then I think they just closed their round. And Masters Union is also an investor in their new round, by the way. Yeah. The fund itself, right? So which is quite cool. It's come full circle. Dharmeel's company, and I know they have a big news coming up, which we will not talk about because he's asked us not to talk about it. Which is a betting company where you essentially, it's a Dream 11 for stocks, essentially. They are doing a great job. They also raised, I think, $500,000 and they are about to, I think, announce their second round. But more importantly, the other big news, we'll keep shut about that.
Under
wraps. That's also so beautiful. Both of these companies started off at Masters Union during the VIP program. Now, there are a lot of companies that got started, but they didn't continue. The reason for that was because they got good placements. But the reason they got good placements was because they had that experience of running a company for 8-9 months, right? So there was a student called Ashwin, right? And he was an entrepreneur on campus. He started a company. I forget exactly what the company did, but he got like absorbed by this company as chief of staff. This company was called OneCode. It's a Sequoia funded Series B level company, right? And he became the chief of staff there. And if you talk to him today, he will tell you that, he was only able to get this chief of staff role because of the kind of work he had done in VIP.
Wow.
Right. You remember Daniel?
Yeah.
Right name, right? Daniel?
Yeah.
Daniel, if you talk to him, he in fact is a great example of how you look beyond the 50 limited companies. He got a placement at Google in Dublin, right? As a growth strategist. And he would tell you 100%. And I think we have a podcast with him.
Right.
Yeah. So you guys can all go back and actually see that podcast, which I only hosted. Yeah. I forgot. Where he'll tell you that he was able to get this Google job only and only because of his VIP experience. Because he had started a company, because when they asked him questions about GTM, about growth strategy, all of that, he could give answers from his own experience of having run that company for good 8-9 months. So I think the VIP program, best case scenario, you fundraise, you start running that company full time. But the backup scenario is not too bad, which is that you get a really good placement.
Yeah.
So the single point success of Masters Union rests on venture initiation program. Like, and this is for all the business schools out there, any university out there, do this, right? This is the best way to build students up. It not only builds their skills, but also builds their character.
Right. Learn business by running business.
Running business.
That's the end goal.
That's the end goal. And I mean, I'm so excited for what's going to happen this year. I hope that at least like 5-6 companies get funded. We are undergoing a funding winter of sorts right now, but I think by the time these people get ready for fundraising, I think the winter would have vanished.
No, that's true. And even in our second cohort, actually, there's one company I want to mention, which is this company called Alpha Mint Labs.
Oh yeah, of course.
Which is founded by Rohit in our second cohort. And they actually, in convocation, I don't believe we spoke about this, but we had recently we had a convocation that we were graced by Nitin Kamath, the founder of Zerodha. And, we had degrees over there being awarded as NFTs, which we had Rohit's company actually developed.
Yeah.
So
Alpha Mint Labs, So
I think that makes us the first college in India actually to give NFT degrees.
Yeah. And that also from a startup started by an alum. Right.
A current student, actually.
He's not even an alum. So did he mint his own NFT for his own degree then?
I think we'll have to check.
I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
But it's so cool.
Yeah. I think that space is, again, like, just goes to showcase that whether it's a Web3 thing or a thing, another startup, either, as you said, it's an entrepreneurial outcome or an outcome which can help you in your current job. And speaking about jobs, there's one, role that you said, one or two roles I want to talk to you about here is Chief of Staff, and another one is Entrepreneur in Residence, and the other one you spoke about is growth and marketing and growth in general. So, like Chief of, that's like the hot kind of like, role, like everyone wants to be a Chief of Staff right now. I mean, if you go online, you might figure out, okay, this is what a Chief of Staff is, what it does, and how to become one. But according to you, how does Masters Union prime someone to be a COS?
So, this surprised me as well. I think almost 10% of the batch in cohort 1 and as well as cohort 2 they have been recruited as Chief of Staffs or Entrepreneur in Residence or Founder's Office, one of these three, right? And what that means is that the recruiter thought that these guys were great, or these girls were great generalists, right? That they can work with different teams, that, they can help with marketing, they can help with sales, they can help with recruiting, they can help with ops. And the reason for the recruiter feeling so confident in the diverse skill set of our students is, I think, the VIP program. Because when you're running your own company, you have to touch all the departments. And as you do that, you become good at many of them. So you become sort of a jack of all trades. And that's what you need to become a Chief of Staff. Right? And so this year, Razorpay Founders Office, our student. Aether Founders Office, our student. Zerodha, who has never recruited from a business school ever in the history. And Nitin Kamath, who's the founder of Zerodha, is on record. He said that I do not recruit from business schools. And for the first time, he recruited someone in his own team. The Founders Office team is from Masters Union. We also have a couple more that will probably strike me as well. But we have at least 5, 6, 7 students who have, one of our students has gone in Founders Office as well. So we have at least 10% of our cohort getting into Chief of Staff roles. And, this has sort of become our USP. Like a lot of the times when people, talk to us on Instagram or on email, it's always about, I want to become Chief of Staff, right? And that's why I want to come to Masters Union. So I think the most popular roles coming out of Masters Union now, I think number 1 would be Chief of Staff / Entrepreneur in Residence / Founders Office. Second would be product management. Third would be consulting. Generally in business schools, consulting is number 1.
Yeah, everyone wants to run towards that race.
But what is interesting is that a lot of the Chief of Staffs, if you go on their LinkedIn, you will see that they're all ex-consultants. So you become Chief of Staff after doing a gig in consulting. But after Masters Union, a lot of our students are going directly into Chief of Staff, almost sort of circumventing that entire consulting gig wala part.
I mean, it's like with what you said and what I can dissect is that, generalists are favored when it comes to a skill set of having a chief of staff thing. And if you look at companies like consulting, like especially at management consulting or front end levels, that's what they provide you as an experience. Is like multiple industries and multiple things to get down to. But you're getting that at Masters Union through like a carefully designed system across the spectrum of tech and business. Plus it's applied.
Yeah.
Like, so it's consulting, you might be just at the client's office and stopping at the strategy, not going ahead with the execution. But there is no client here. You are the client here at Masters Union. Yeah. So you have to learn the stuff and then apply it. As you said, that kind of comes back to the
absolutely.
What are you doing outside the classroom?
I mean, now taking that further ahead, I think next week we're also starting with the In the Wild Consulting Challenge, which is a great challenge, where students have to work with a small local business. It could be a dhaba, it could be an Uber driver, it could be, I think I was looking at the list, it could be like a rediwala. And you have to work with them and you have to transform their business. So you have 2 weeks or I think 3 weeks, you have to transform their business, right? And apart from the social impact of it, you get to learn so much. We've done this in the past and some great stories have come out. So I think, and I always speak about this. So if people have seen my other podcasts, they know that I always speak about this. One of our teams took over a dhaba and all they did was redo their menu because the dhaba menu pricing was not done scientifically and pricing is its own course. And it's a very important skill to have, right? So they actually just did the pricing in a way that the revenue of that dhaba in those 2 days only increased.
Wow.
Right? So I'll give you one of the examples. So dal, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the concept you'll get. Dal was 100 rupees and a naan is some 25 rupees. Right? So what they did was they said, they created those combos, which like a Happy Meal sort of a thing, which, large companies do because they have all these consultants and all of these things. And it looks obvious, by the way. But most dhabas do not have combos. Or if they have combos, they're not strategically priced the way, Starbucks does their pricing or the way, Netflix does their pricing, that entire decoy effect and all of their pricing strategies. So they deployed all of those strategies. The revenue increased, we'll have to check what the latest numbers are. But at that moment, at least 15-20%. And that's transformative for the dhaba.
100%. Just working with them in real time. And I believe there was... there's a firm called Artisans of Banjara in the first batch. And they actually worked with a very popular market called Banjara Market, where it's usually known to be a physical store. Correct. But, they created an e-commerce setup for it. So like...
Tapasya.
Right, Tapasya.
Tapasya's story is very interesting because she currently is a brand manager at Global Bees, right? And Global Bees is a company which is sort of a house of brands. It has multiple brands underneath it, multiple FMCG brands. So one brand might be selling clothes and one brand might be selling artificial jewelry. And so she runs one of the brands.
Wow.
Right?
As a brand CEO, maybe.
As a brand CEO, essentially. Yeah. But now, why did she get that job? And I've spoken to her. And we should do a podcast with her, by the way. She ran Artisans of Banjara, where she brought the entire Banjara market, which is a local flea market, maybe like 5 kilometers from here. She brought them online, right? Selling on artisansofbanjara.in. I think the website is still live if the audience is interested in checking it out. And she sold goods that are otherwise sold for 100 rupees, 200 rupees for like 600 rupees, 700 rupees, right? Yeah. And she was able to pass on that benefit partly to herself, but also to the artisans of Banjara. And this entire story, this experience that she had, when she took it to Global Bees, it was a no-brainer for Global Bees to take her. No other business school graduate would have such a great story.
I mean, given that, entrepreneurial experience, as you're saying, that seems to be the common thread in most of these stories that you're talking to me about. That's what tying, the practical experience or the lived life experience that they get from going to a dhaba or, making a Web3 startup or failing at it, actually. That's something that, that's people want to...
Hustling. I mean, see, half the life is about hustle, right? And when you do all of these things, you learn how to hustle.
That's also true.
Right? So... I'm reminded of Pooja Arti's story.
Yeah.
So she was super interested in Netflix. Okay. And Netflix has a very small team in India and they do not recruit from colleges. Right. Or they just don't recruit because they don't need that many people. But she was super interested. So, you know what she did? She basically created a resume in the format of a Netflix show. So her past work experience was showcased as episode number 1, episode number 2, episode number 3.
Got it.
And the characters in her, So it was very, very creative. And so I think all of these VIP things and whatever we do in Masters Union, I think at the end of the day, students just become hustlers. I think that's the one word I would use to also define our students more individually, that they're all hustlers, that they would go the extra mile. They'd try to do something unique, something different, because that's how they've been taught. Right? That's how they chose Masters Union in the first place, because they are the kind of people who would do something different and unique. So I think Puja Aarti is a great example. Any other ideas, any other examples that come to your mind?
I mean, for me, I've spoken to a couple of people in the first cohort. Do you know Keith well? Yeah, Keith, I remember he's from a theatre or a more English background, right? And he came to Masters Union and then has ended up in fintech, which is the most ridiculous transformation I've personally seen from a theatre writing or literature background to a fintech background.
And I think he's doing brand.
Yeah.
For a fintech brand.
For a fintech brand, yeah. So just to knowing that, those skills are transferable, but, you just have to learn about other industries, other sectors, other areas where you can apply them. Keith is a fantastic story in my opinion. And I mean, even as you said, like the startups, to have in your first year, 3 startups, and as you said, incubate, accelerate, and raise funds, and now currently still be working. That's something that I think is...
Yeah, this year is also interesting because
insane.
The 3 companies from year 1 are actually going to come back to campus to recruit.
Wow.
From amongst their juniors, which is again a full circle, right?
I mean, there's so many ways to be involved back with Masters Union, and I think that's an aspect that we don't really talk about enough. That as an alumni, how you can give back or how you can be associated with or talk to Masters Union. I think right now you mentioned, off camera we were talking about Ankit, one of our friends, and who we work with, right? And so, and about him taking a course. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's I'm super excited about that. And Ankit, if you're looking at this, no pressure, but so he actually is in our new initiatives team, right? He works full time at Masters Union. But before Masters Union, he was at WeWork, and before that he was at AB InBev. And at AB InBev, he used to run pricing. And we were just talking about how pricing is so important, right, in context of the Dhaba, in the Wild Consulting project. But he did pricing for AB InBev. So he's teaching a course, an elective course on the economics of beer.
Wow.
Right. And it's a very interesting course. I mean, I wish I could pull it out, but essentially, you have a lot of these questions that why is alcohol priced different in Haryana versus Delhi? What is the reason for that? Right. So he gets into that. Why there's certain brands of alcohol that are not available anywhere in India, while there is a huge demand. There's a reason for that. Right. So the entire back end of alcohol industry he teaches. Now you'd say that no one wants a job in the alcohol industry. Sure, but you also learn just so much more about how industries work in general.
Right. And it's pricing that he's teaching you essentially.
At the end of the day. So, I think that class has already been oversubscribed.
Okay.
So we are asking him to now do 2 sections. And then he's like, this is not what you hired me for. But, that's how I think a lot of teaching happens at Masters Union. It's because it's practitioner driven, you can basically call anyone. Right. And everyone will have some sort of a story to impart.
Yeah. I mean, could be from any profession. And I think that's something that's always validated here. I think we're about to call someone from Mama Earth also.
Yeah, Ghazal. She's coming herself,
So for her to be there to directly interact with the students and tell her stories, I think that culture of, again, as I'm coming back to breaking down barriers and, being directly in one-on-one, or a one-on-many conversation with the CXO, that's pretty rare. It starts off actually, taking you back, it starts off at the interview stage because all our applicants are actually interviewed by the masters.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's their first interaction and it's
that's
very
where they're invested as well.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because how we measure or what we ask from those masters during that interview is, would you hire this person if this person is
that's the one question I think we ask.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's a very good scale to see if someone's pretty equipped before joining Masters Union.
Okay.
So the application this year is pretty interesting, and we have the selection of masters for anyone who's here and who's interested in applying. Admissions hopefully should be out should be open by the time this podcast is out. So I would encourage you, get your applications in order. There's some interesting essay questions that we have.
Should we talk about admissions a little bit?
Sure. Why not?
I mean, so one of the questions I think you get, or even I get all the time is, will I get into Masters Union? Like, is there a cutoff?
Yeah.
Or, a lot of these questions.
Right.
I think you're the right person to answer. So let me ask you.
Okay, fine. Why not?
What does it take to get into Masters Union?
Interesting question. And I think we've elaborated a lot on our webinars and on our website and stuff. So if you do some due diligence, you can kind of create a picture. But with what I'd say, it's again, I like the 3 Ps, or I'll try to go with the 3 Cs over here.
Okay.
Right. So we would want to see a certain element of critical thinking. I think that's very important with how your essays are structured. Is there an argument? Is that clear? Is that then substantiated with context? Is there a personal story, or are you talking about something else? So like at least the essay aspect, like your communication skills, or with the video, like how deeply have you thought about that particular prompt or that particular problem statement? Are you using one lens or like 5 different lenses of approaching that problem? Second thing is, I would say, I can't fit into a C thing, but the ability to be coached, right? Being humble, being open enough to be, let's say that to thrive in this ecosystem of peer learning, because that's something that you're actually invested in. I mean, the curriculum.
But how do you test for that? How do you ascertain that, or how do you judge that in a candidate through the application?
I mean, through their experiences of what they've brought behind, and let's say what their credentials are across these aspects, whether it's academic, whether it's extracurricular. We're looking at people who are coming, like cohort composition, like as an exercise, is not just pulling people who are already good, but it's people where they're from, like which geographic location they're from, or how much work experience do they have. We always want to see what value you can add from it. I mean, if you look at the mathematics of applying to a business college, and that could be us or could be any other place, it's that usually, we think about our cohort composition very, very strongly at the start, because these are the people that will be the flag bearers of the brand. So we want people from different spaces, from South India, from, in Kashmir, from, Northeast, for example. We want people who are engineers. We want people who studied political science.
So coming back, second is coachability.
Coachability.
Right. So are they open to learning? Are they curious, or
curious individuals?
Are they asking? Yeah. Right. And that would, as you're saying, shows through their work experience, how they talk about their work experience.
Their references as well.
Their references, of course. Yeah.
So, we take a ref check and we ask the people that you've written, they give them their email and phones that, hey, are these people is it actually true what they've written on their application? Do they actually showcase this in real life?
And even in the interviews, I think you ask questions that give us certain data points about how curious the person is, right? Or how they approach a problem.
Yeah.
So first is critical thinking. Second is coachability.
Yeah. And third, I would say competence.
Competence.
Yes. I think there needs to be a certain level of not just intellectual curiosity, right? You want, as you said, like I think I've heard you say this, that if there's any problem, you should be like immediately be able to Google it and try to solve it or try to forge for solutions there. So some intellectual curiosity into one particular aspect that, whether it's a stream related thing. For example, if you studied computer science, you're really into say machine learning or deep learning, for example, and you can showcase that. I'll give you an example. We had a applicant who had sent me his compression algorithm that you could reduce her 10 MB size into like a 1.8 MB file. So that was passion coming through me through that. Correct. I don't know if you remember, we had a drummer also apply to us. And we had a lot of videos of his concerts and stuff sent to us.
We also had I think one of the questions in the application last year was, what is that dish?
Yeah.
What was the question?
So if Masters Union was a dish, what would that dish be and what would the ingredients be?
And I think there was a candidate who actually cooked a meal.
Yeah.
Kache kele ki sabzi, right? Which is so cool. And they said, Masters Union is like a kache kele ki sabzi. It tastes, it's young, it's kacha.
Yeah.
But it tastes really good and it's very good for you. It's very healthy.
Very healthy. And once it's cooked, it's the best dish.
It's the best dish, right? So I think that was such a good way to answer that question.
Yeah. No, the level of creativity I saw.
I think that person, we wouldn't say, she knows who she is, but I think that was a big factor in her acceptance.
Yeah, 100%.
And even if, and I don't remember her scores, but even if her scores hadn't been that good, or even if her work experience hadn't been that good, we would have still taken her.
Yeah.
Right. So I think those spikes, if you're looking for in your application, right? So if you don't have good grades and if you don't have good work experience, right? And what the definition of good is sort of something we can come to later. But even if you have nothing else in your application, but if you have done a very good job on the essays, I think you'll get it.
Yeah. Take the time to get to know the culture of Masters Union, what we are about, what we would like as a, like one question again we presented because we're in this kind of tech space was add the word tech to anything and then, give us your description of that industry, for example. So, look at that as an aspect of Masters Union's culture, that, we're trying to get you to think way beyond what you would find in a regular MBA application, which is tell me about yourself, tell me about strengths.
What was the
and
best
weaknesses.
answer for the tech question? So like you had to basically like agri-tech, fintech, you
Yeah.
had to create your own.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of people who said consistent questions on which was agri-tech, this, that, whatever. I found 3 interesting ones. I remember one was skills tech, right, where they said, okay, we want a way to upskill people and have a AI-enabled kind of ecosystem for that. The other one was poop tech.
Poop tech,
Poop
yeah,
tech.
I remember that.
Poop tech. And so that was about the, let's say, technology of toilets.
Yeah.
And how they want to kind of go about that. Again, super interesting.
Never been changed, never been disrupted.
Right. And the third one was weed tech.
Yeah.
Right. Which was audacious. But I'm actually, let's say, impressed by the bravery of someone to actually write that in an MBA application.
Absolutely.
So I think
they would do well in life. I think
they would do well.
They would take a lot of risks.
Yeah,
in life.
exactly. That really shows me a risk-taking ability.
I think that's how we think about applications.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we look at, okay, you have to have 700 in GMAT or you have to have whatever 99 percentile in
we're ready
CAT.
we're ready to give you the benefit of the doubt. Like if your CAT score is not as good and you do much better in MUBAT, we look at MUBAT. It's not that we'll penalize you for having a bad score in any one of these exams. And so even for the students who are applying, I think that's something I would espouse is like, learn about Masters Union. Just talk to everyone, go through our website, go through all our content, just see what we're trying to do, what's our ethos, what's our identity.
We're like a human being, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So just get to know us.
Yeah. Essentially,
you don't want to go on a date with a human being you don't
know. Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's essentially, it's not a date. It's like a
marriage.
18,
it's a marriage. Yeah.
It's a pretty long commitment that.
I mean, Masters Union will be on your resume for your life.
Right.
So it's a marriage in that sense.
Yeah.
You can't get out of it.
No, 100%. And what they get as outcomes post that is something that I feel is, as I said, with the 3 Ps, the push, pivot and pilot, and from the 3 Cs at the start, it's a journey of, let's say, 15 odd alphabets to across 16 months.
So another thing we get a lot is about, I'm a fresher. Will I get in? And I have 20 years of experience. Will I get in? Right. And I think, like, what would you say to them?
I mean, I would say talk to one of our students recently who is just Aman, right?
Yeah.
So Aman had just graduated from DU. And he had 2 choices, either join another consulting firm or join Masters Union. And so, access to, obviously that consulting firm is almost a dream gig for any fresher, right? Like they would want to think that they have their life set, they have a certain organization, a certain stamp. So again, he was a maverick, he was a risk taker because he said, no, I'm going to join Masters Union. And he's within 2-3 months, he's at BCG.
Yeah.
Right? It's like...
So now you have a fresher who came right away and got BCG. Right. Even Janisha last year was a fresher, got BCG, Bain, right after.
So like the transition from a back end to a front end role is like, first of all, it's hard enough to become a consultant. But then again, it's that journey repeats itself from a back end to front end.
Freshers clearly do well. I think that's why we have never shied away from recruiting freshers, even though some other business schools do.
Right, yeah.
So freshers are more than welcome.
Yeah.
I think they do really well, placements wise as well.
Yeah, that's clearly established.
Established. And what about some of the older students?
I mean, I can give you Tanuj's example. Like Tanuj is a student in our second cohort. Has a kid as well, I think, and he's the head of MUIF.
Yeah.
Right. So, like his investment again, I earlier talked about that 40-year-old who applied from JP Morgan, that super senior person, but they're coming at it with a different intention. They're like, people are, or let's say wise people are people who seek to learn all the time.
And we are ready to
that's something them.
That's something we love to have these. Yeah. I mean, I think Tanuj has coached so many of his classmates. Right. And a lot of his classmates who are freshers have coached him about like social media, what's happening in the world, right? So now, in fact, he was just interviewing today, Tanuj. And he's interviewing for a CFO job because he's older, right? And in his interview, his boss or his founder, the company that he's interviewing at, the founder is like much younger than him. Right. But he's like, I get what you're trying to do because, my classmates are also all younger than me. So it was very interesting how sort of he's looking to now get placed. But I think that's another thing, right? Which is that Masters Union placements, the entire process is not like one size fits all, right? So we work with each student individually, and then try to figure out what their career journey is and what the right role for them would be. So we have some freshers who are trying to get into consulting, and we have some 36-year-olds who are trying to become CFOs.
Yeah.
right? And for both of them, the career journey is going to be very different. And we have a careers team that works one-on-one with all of these students.
That actually, the curriculum is also suited to this. That's the beauty of it, because you have, let's say, across 60, like 8 terms that you have in total. The first 4 ones are where your core competencies are built. You're learning more like fundamental skills.
First principles.
And then the next 4 months is completely, let's say, flexible for you to choose your electives. So if you want to become a generalist, as you said, you take multiple things from multiple streams that we offer. And if you want to double down on one, you can graduate with a specialization in that particular thing. And what we're giving is, let's say, more contemporary and more future forward looking things. Fintech, private equity, venture capital is what people can actually study in their industry elective. Not just study, but study from like a Manoj Kohli or a Rajan Anandan is, those kind of guys.
So we have this year, we'll have Naveen Munjal come back to teach. And Naveen Munjal, for those of you who don't know, is the founder and CEO of Hero Electric. Which is one of the, I think, the single largest electric two-wheeler manufacturing companies in the country. And he's going to be teaching the economics of EV.
Wow.
Right? And that's the future, right?
And we recently put out I don't know if you remember, we put out a video on electric vehicles.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
On if they were better, or, what's them versus regular.
And you can actually ask him that question.
Yeah, we'll probably do that.
Yeah. So I think overall, okay, coming back to admissions. So we are saying we are okay with freshers, we are okay with older people. Application matters. Nothing sort of disqualifies you.
So we were talking about admissions, right? And one common theme that I see that exists there, as well as during their experience at Masters Union, is the interaction with the masters in the interview stage, when students are in the interview before admission. But even when CXOs are here on stage, right? I remember we had Kriti from Animal, and we had Pragya, which was a student, which was the first CXO session that we had hosted. And I think since then you've chosen one student to be represented to moderate the CXO session, as it were.
No, I mean, like let's do the math, right? We have some 200 CXO sessions that happen over the year.
Yeah.
Right. That means each student can moderate with at least 1.5 CXOs.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very deep connection that the student forms with the CXO. And the student can always reach out to that CXO in the future. So for example, I think we had Pramod Bhasin a couple months ago, who is the founder of Genpact.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Devina interviewed him.
Yeah.
Now, Devina would always have this sort of a card on her, right, which she can use forever in her life. That, hey, remember, like, I'm Devina. I interviewed you for this CXO lesson. Can I reach out to you for some help? Some CV review, whatever. Right. So I think that interaction, that engagement with the masters that students have is so deep. When they have one-to-one conversations,
it propels the masters also, because even he was the same person who was liking people's posts for like content creation challenges. So he's active on LinkedIn, over there, for example. So it's good to see that it's kind of flowing two ways. But, say to wind down on the admissions bit, let's say, Cohort 4 admissions are open. What are you looking for from the new batch? And let's just keep this very high level.
I mean, I guess we'll get into the details later, right? We'll probably do another one of these podcasts and talk about GMAT scores and all of that stuff. But for now, I think, we are moving very fast in terms of our placements, in terms of our curriculum. Everything is disruptive, everything is unique, everything is new, right? So we want people who vibe with that, right? And if you talk to any of our students today, I think that's the one common thread you'll find, that they embrace the difference that is Masters Union, right? They embrace the uniqueness, right? You have that, I don't know if there's a book called Chasing the Chasm, I think, where, you have early adopters, you have laggards, and in the middle you have the rest of the crowd, right? We are in our year 3. So we'd love for that early adopter crowd to still come, right? Who want to break boundaries, which is something that we always talk about. Who want to, reach out to masters and talk to them about unique ideas, who are excited about learning, who are not happy with the current education system of India, or of the MBA schools specifically, right? Who want more. We also want people who are very open thinkers and are open to debating, against their viewpoints. So I think all of those things is what we're looking for in Cohort 2. Of course, a layer on top is that we're looking for competence and excellence, right? We want to make sure that, you have been consistent in your life. Of course, you could have had, some issues, some bad grades here and there, and we will not hold that against you. But generally, you should not have dropped too many balls in life.
No, I mean, that's straight from the horse's mouth. So for any viewers, like, that's your gold standard right there to reach. So to wind down the podcast, I want to play a small game.
Okay.
Okay. Have you played 20 questions before?
Absolutely.
So just for the, viewers and the rules, we'll, have to respond with a yes or no. You have to think of one person, let it be a Masters Union student. Okay. And I have to try to guess who this person is.
Okay.
Right. So my first question is...
So I've thought of the student.
You've thought of the student and you have to respond...
Give me a second. Okay, done.
Okay, and you have to respond with either yes or no.
Okay.
My first question is male?
Yes.
Okay. My second question to you is below 25?
Yes.
Okay. My third question to you is business background? A business major?
No.
No. Is this person in a club at Masters Union?
Yes. I'm sure he is.
Okay.
Yeah, let me put it that way.
Is this someone who has a prominent content creator challenge?
No.
Okay. Is it someone from a, let's say, marquee college?
All college. I don't know. That's be more specific.
A top engineering college.
Yes.
Okay. Is it someone who's done data science as a career?
Yes.
Okay. Is it Mihik?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, that was easy. I think that was easy.
That was good.
Okay, should we now you would.
Okay. Let me think. Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Can I just take a guess?
Okay.
Of the student?
That might say worst thing.
I feel like maybe I know how you think. Okay. Male, female?
No, I'll have to reply with yes or no.
Okay. Is it male?
No.
Okay. Business background?
No.
Software development background?
Yeah.
Hindi is not her first language?
Yeah, maybe. I would say I've not really seen her actively speak in Hindi that much.
Okay. Did she just host a CXO lesson?
No.
Okay. Okay, shit. This is going to be hard.
No, I know who you were talking about. Yeah, no, not that.
Is she on the student clubs committee? Is she on the student union? No.
Yeah, no. She's part of something.
Something.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that application something that really stood out?
Yeah, we liked it.
I'm generally good with names. I feel like I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember.
I'm 100% sure, but I think you should get more. Try to hunker down a bit more on what they've done recently.
Okay. Did she just get placed?
No.
Okay. In Bain BCG, no. Okay. Did she? But are you sure I know the name?
I'm 100% sure.
Oh wow. Okay. Is she from IIT?
No.
Okay. Is it Nara Sanjana?
No.
No.
But you're getting closer. Okay. Again, I'll double down on what have they done in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what happened? Dropshipping creator. Is she a creator?
Yeah.
Is it Yukta?
No. But you're like extremely hot, like extremely warm.
Srishti Goyal.
No. It's the...
Okay, wait. Creator challenge. What else happened? Dropshipping happened. Creator challenge happened.
It's someone who had a reel touch 2 million views in the last couple of days.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Sonakshi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Her reel touched 2 million
2
views.
million views. And this was something that she made herself, put up on Instagram and touched 2 million views for her content.
By the way, her story is also very interesting. Yeah. I don't know how she got shortlisted. I mean, she didn't even apply to BCG, I think, but she got shortlisted for Bain or BCG.
Really?
Yeah,
okay. I didn't even know.
She's an artist, right?
Doodler. I think she's from JP Morgan, software background, engineering. So
is she?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea that she's a
software dev at, I think, JP Morgan, and then she's a doodler, and then she's come here.
So she's an engineer with 2 million views on her reel.
Yes.
That's like a full package.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's pretty great.
Good game.
But yeah, I mean, at least it goes to show you, at least, with the an interesting way to dissect the diversity of the cohort.
Absolutely.
So maybe we can do more, maybe with the viewers, we can do some 20 questions and see how
with the next...
we now, well, people know our, with the applicants that are coming.
Perhaps we can make this part of the application process somehow. I don't know.
I'll think
Something
on it.
to think about.
I'll think on it.
But thanks for having me. This was great.
For sure.
Let's do this again.
100%. I think it was really clear for all the viewers who've been watching us till now. I think it's a one-stop video for you to get a lot of questions or a lot of things that you wanted to know about Masters Union down.
And it was all just sort of sprinkled around, right?
Yeah.
There's no structure to this conversation. Just so we keep the expectations clear. But this was fun because this is what a conversation at Masters Union also looks like, right?
Yeah.
How we sort of built on each other.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.